All right, so we're diving into some listener questions today about SEMrush and, how accurate it really is when it comes to SEO.
Yeah, seems like there's a lot of curiosity out there about, you know, how much we can actually trust the data and insights from this pretty popular tool.
Right, and you've sent in some really great sources, so we're going to dig into those and really try to understand, just how much weight we can actually give to SEMrush in the grand scheme of digital marketing and SEO.
Absolutely. I mean, SEMrush, it's a big name. It's used by a ton of marketers, agencies, businesses, really anyone who wants to get a handle on things like, their rankings, their competitors, what kind of content's working.
Yeah, so it's pretty powerful stuff if it's accurate.
Right, exactly. And that's what we're here to figure out today.
Okay, so let's break this down. I guess first things first, where does SEMrush even get all of its information?
Well, it's interesting, actually. They pulled data from a few different places. So you've got things like third-party clickstream data, that anonymized information about how people are browsing online.
Right, so kind of tracking user behavior.
Exactly. And then they're also tapping into Google's API, which gives them info on things like keyword search volume.
Okay, so they're going right to the source for some of this.
They are. And on top of that, they've got their own web crawlers, these little bots that are constantly out there scanning millions of web pages every single day, gathering intel.
Wow, so they're really casting a wide net.
Definitely. But here's the thing. They're not peering directly into everyone's private Google Analytics account.
Okay, so it's not like they have access to all of our deepest, darkest website secrets?
No, not exactly. And that's a really important point because they're relying on these different data sources and using machine learning algorithms to kind of, spot patterns and make predictions, their outputs are essentially estimations.
Ah, so it's not necessarily the absolute truth. It's more like an educated guess.
Precisely. There's always going to be a margin of error involved.
Okay, so let's get into some specifics then. One of the big things people use SEMrush for is rank tracking. Where their website shows up in search results. How reliable is that data?
Well, for the most part, it's pretty decent at showing you the overall trends, how your keyword performance is moving over time.
Okay, so it can give you a general sense of things.
Exactly. But you got to remember, those search engine rankings, they can fluctuate like crazy throughout the day.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And SEMrush's data, it's more like a snapshot in time, so it might not always reflect those real-time ups and downs.
So don't freak out if you see a little dip or spike.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more about the long game, right?
Exactly. It's about understanding the big picture, the long-term performance trends, rather than, getting hung up on the day-to-day changes.
And it also matters where you're looking from, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Your location settings are crucial if your target audience is primarily local, people in your city or region. Then looking at global rankings in SEMrush might not be super helpful.
Right, it won't really reflect what people in your area are actually seeing.
Exactly. So make sure your location settings match your target audience. That's key.
All right, let's talk about keyword volume estimates. I feel like those numbers can be really tempting to take as gospel.
Oh, they totally are. But it's so important to remember that even though SEMrush calls them keyword volumes, they're actually estimates based on historical data.
So not an exact count of how many people are searching for something?
Right. It's more like their best guess based on past trends. And sometimes they overestimate, sometimes they underestimate, especially for keywords that are, not super popular.
Right, so take it with a grain of salt.
Exactly. Use those figures as a starting point to prioritize your efforts, but don't treat them like the be-all and end-all.
Okay, good advice. Now, competitor analysis is the huge part of what SEMrush offers. How much can we trust what they tell us about our rivals?
Well, I'd say they're pretty good at identifying who your main competitors are online, which websites are vying for the same audience as you.
Okay, that's helpful to know who you're up against.
Definitely. And they can also give you a good idea of your competitors' top performing content, what's driving traffic to their site.
Ah, so you can kind of see what's working for them and
Yeah.
maybe get some ideas for your own content.
Exactly. And they can also estimate your competitors' overall website traffic, which can be helpful to gauge their reach.
Okay, but they're not seeing everything, right?
Right. Because they don't have access to a competitor's Google Analytics account. They're missing out on some pieces of the puzzle, especially things like direct traffic and social media traffic.
So it's a good overview, but not the complete picture.
Exactly.
What about backlinks? Those links from other websites that point back to yours. How comprehensive is SEMrush's view of that whole backlink landscape?
They have pretty large backlink index. It's definitely a valuable resource for seeing who's linking to you and also who's linking to your competitors.
So you can kind of spy on your rivals a little bit?
In a way, yes. But here's the thing. No third-party tool, Even one as robust as SEMrush can match the complete view that Google has.
Oh, right. Google's the ultimate authority when it comes to backlinks.
Absolutely. So to really get a well-rounded picture of your backlink profile, it's a good idea to look at data from multiple sources.
Mm.
Compare what SEMrush tells you with other tools like Ahrefs and Moz.
Okay, so don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Diversify your data sources.
All right, so we've talked about a lot of different aspects of SEMrush. If someone's using it, what are the key takeaways? How can they get the most value out of it?
I think one of the biggest things is to focus on analyzing trends rather than fixating on individual data points.
So don't get too hung up on a single number. Look at the bigger picture.
Exactly. Look for patterns that emerge over time. That's where the real insights lie.
And I guess it's important to remember that SEMrush is just one piece of the puzzle, right? You should be cross-referencing their insights with other data you have.
Absolutely don't rely on a single source for anything, especially where it comes to SEO.
Right. Check your Google Search Console data. See what Google Analytics is telling you about your own website performance.
Exactly, because that's your real ground truth. Those are the hard numbers that show how your website is actually performing.
So SEMrush is a helpful guide, but not the ultimate authority.
Precisely, it gives you a lot of valuable information and direction, but the most accurate understanding comes from combining those insights with your own first-party data.
Okay, so for everyone listening, the key takeaway here is that SEMrush can be a really useful tool for understanding trends in your competition, but use it wisely. Don't treat it as the gospel truth.
Exactly. And this actually brings us to a really interesting question for all of you out there. We've talked about the limitations of third-party data. So what other creative methods could you use to gain a more accurate understanding of your online visibility and how people are interacting with you beyond relying solely on tools like SEMrush?
Yeah, what other ways can you get a handle on your online presence? That's something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
All right, that wraps up our deep dive into SEMrush accuracy. Hope you found it helpful.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you next time.